Hello, Glowbusters. Yes, of course they're serious. You do? You have? No kidding. Uh-huh. Oh, they'll cure your globitis this week. Thank you. We got one!
Ladies and gentlemen,
It's the Glowbusters.
What are you supposed to be, some kind of a cosmonaut?
No, we're exterminators.
and now, here's your host.
And welcome everybody to Glowbusters Light. I am your host, Bob Xanadude60, and we are back with another Wednesday night show for you tonight. And we have kind of a hodgepodge of stuff to talk about tonight. Some interesting stuff. I think we're gonna cover some things about light that we want to talk about also. But then another thing that I would like to talk about tonight with our panel members is the new Iwaranon video, or AEWAR, he's going by now. He has released another new video to his collection. And I got to tell you guys, after watching that, you know, I had a pretty good feeling that he was really on the right track about a lot of things in the first place. And, you know, now that he's released this latest one, I can see where he's going with it. He makes some more direct claims in it, specifically about genetic corruption, which, of course, I don't have to go far to address that now, do I? But as far as that being the reason for the original flood. And he also goes into, you know, quite a bit beyond that. Which is quite amazing. And what also is amazing is I'm seeing these other people that I follow. You guys know that I follow, you know, a variety of people. One of the guys that I've talked about several times is a guy named Wes Penre. And Wes Penre talks about, you know, the cultures that were here, you know, the alternative stories about what actually happened on Earth, not just biblical, but in other religious texts and other historical texts, et cetera, mythological texts, you know, and whatnot. And it's interesting because Wes Penre basically came out and said, you know, he says he showed a diagram of the Earth, and in fact, it is a flat Earth. It's a flat Earth inside of a kind of an egg dome, but nevertheless, it's still a flat Earth inside of a dome with a firmament and all that stuff. And I'll show that to you guys because I think it's really interesting. And I had a feeling that he was going that way anyway. He's not claiming to be a flat earth or anything like that. He's simply taking the cosmology that through his, you know, 20, 30 years of study on this, and he is quite the academic. He has come to the conclusion that, you know, well, this is what he thinks the model of the Earth, you know, somewhat looks like. And it's, you know, it's pretty damn close to what we're talking about too, you know, we're most of the flat earthers. And, so I just think it's interesting because all of these things are starting to come together. They're starting to form a very coherent picture, at least for me, you know. And again, I'm not trying to convince anybody of what I think, of what my way of feeling is, anything like that. I'm simply here to express my beliefs, to tell you what I think honestly. And if you agree, that's great. If you don't, that's great too. As long as we don't get into stupid war and everybody calling everybody a shill, I'm good with that, you know. There's plenty of room for, you know, people having different opinions and being able to talk it out. But I just find it absolutely amazing. And why am I not showing any pictures? What is the problem here? Hang on a second, guys. Let me see what's happening. I seem to not be showing my video. That's kind of weird. Ah, okay. Well, Cami, if you would do me a favor and get my son down here, because I know I don't have video on, and that's a problem. So if you would be so kind as to get Jeran down here so he can kind of patch it. Well, there's that. Oh, you know what? It may be just because of the delay. That could be the problem. Holy cow. Okay, well, we'll see. Yeah, it's just not seeing anything. No, I need him. I need him down here, Cami. So if you would send him down.
Okay, I'll work on that now.
Okay, cool. Yeah, you see the intro, but yeah, I'm just seeing black. I don't know what's going on here. Let me refresh this. God, it's almost like Jeran was here in spirit or something. What the heck is going on? I'm just showing that I'm broadcasting a black screen on everything, and I am sharing something quite different than that. So I'm not sure exactly what it is, but we will find out. So anyway, in the meantime, let's go ahead and introduce the panel. Well, I get my tech support down here, and he can take care of this. And we will go forward from here. So first up, we have John TheMorgile. How you doing tonight, John?
Hey, Bob. Hey, everyone. Good evening. Good to be here. Hope y'all are doing well. Good show coming up.
Yeah, I think so. Interesting stuff. Have you by any chance had a chance to look at the new Warren video, John?
I have not.
Okay, well, it's something it's very, very interesting. It's well, like I said, it's amazing that this guy, he just kind of came out of nowhere. And of course, when he first came on the scene, it's like he was first met with all kinds of animosity from, I think FPV Angel, claiming he was some other guy. And then it turned out, well, he wasn't this guy. And so I'm not sure who he is. I do know that he wants to keep his identity unknown, and that's cool. I don't blame anybody for that.
Sure.
But he has made something like 17 videos now, and they are all fabulous. Really, really good. And
yeah, I'm not familiar, but I'll definitely. Are we going to watch some of his work tonight, or is that?
Yeah, we'll cover parts of it. I also have in the show notes. I do have the link to all 17 of his videos. One he just released, his brand new one, is on the YouTube, and then Odyssey contains all the other links to his works, if you guys are not familiar with that. So, yeah, pretty cool.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, and guys, don't worry. I know the screen is black, guys. Yes, I know the screen is black. I will get it fixed. Never fear. Let me see something if I can actually screen share it to her right. Display capture 2. Yeah, something's goofed up. And you know what happened is OBS did an update. And when it does that, it always seems to change the source. So I don't know why it does that, but never fear. I will have somebody down here momentarily to fix it. So, okay, so let's move on to our next person. Next up, we have Good Times for All, or Zachary Zabala. How you doing today, Zach?
Hey, Bob. Hey, everybody. Yeah, not a bad day. A little bit cooler today. I think, everybody I've talked to around the country, I didn't ask Walt down in Louisiana, but yeah, it seems like about 10 degrees cooler it got just about everywhere. Josh Corey there in Missouri said he saw frost today. So yeah, it's coming. The cold is on its way, I guess.
The cold is coming. Okay.
I'm ready for no snow though. I'm hoping no snow.
Yeah, me too. Cool. Okay. And next up we have my wife Cami, Acelink717, who I just saw myself, so part of it's working. The camera's working and then it went off. But anyway, did you get a hold of Jeran?
I did. Is he not down there yet?
He is not down here yet. Tell him to move his butt.
Well, he was like sleeping, because that's what teenage boys do. Let me do it again. I thought he would really be down there by now. Hold on.
Okay. So, all right. So anyway, and last but certainly not least, we have Mr. John Savage with us. How you doing today, John?
Oh, I'm doing very well, Bob. Thanks. The weather over here is just plummeted. I've lit the fire for the first time this week. So, yeah, it's It's getting chilly, but it was quite an Indian summer. To be honest, it's only just got cold.
Yeah, it's getting a little chilly, a little chilly here. I mean, not too bad. It's still the daytimes are pleasantly warm, but as soon as that sun goes down, it gets a bit on the nipply side.
Yeah, got me long johns and woolly socks on. But yeah, looking forward to the show. It's I watched the latest episode earlier today, and yeah, he really has a talent for delivering this information across, and in such picturesque ways as well. He's got some great graphics and pictures that he puts along with it. But yeah, where did he come from?
Yeah, and the connections that he makes are just so obvious, but it's so many few people make these connections. You know, when you see it, you're like, oh, duh. But making that connection, it's amazing. Just
yeah. Hey, can you guys carry on for a minute? My son still isn't down here. I'm going to go beat his butt. No, I'm going to go chew his butt. So I'll be right back. Okay, take it over.
Has anyone read the book by Gary Wayne called The Genesis 6 Conspiracy?
No.
That I can highly recommend that. It's in the same vein as the video we're going to talk about tonight. What's he going at? Oh, War Anon, or AE War Anon now. I'm not sure, but yeah, it's a huge doorstop of a book. But it goes into huge detail into the whole Genesis 6, Nephilim, giants, floods, everything. It literally just concentrates on Genesis 6 for the whole book, and I think it's about 700, 600 pages, something. But really cool read, really cool. I can highly recommend it. That's Gary Wayne, The Genesis 6 Conspiracy.
Yeah, I just got done watching the Awaranon, the new one, and there was a lot in there that I had no idea.
Like what?
You know, like Adam was 90 feet tall.
Right, yeah, they put it in cubits, didn't they? The old elusive cubit that.
Yeah, he was 60 cubits tall, and that would make him like about 90 feet. I did not know that. I'd never heard that before. You know?
Yeah, it brings up a lot of stuff, including the tree link, the links to giant trees in the Apocrypha, is it? I'm assuming.
I thought that was really cool that he tied that back to that, because I remember how much crap came out about that video. People saying, oh, no, that's complete bullshit, and it's just trying to discredit Flat Earth. And I actually thought the guy at the time did a really good job with that. The Russian guy, right? And it was called There's No Trees or something like that on Flat Earth, something like that. And I thought it was a totally fabulous video. And, you know, and Cami's been saying all along, she said, well, you know, those are hexagonal structures that, you know, they do crystallize. And she had an explanation for how they worked and all that stuff. But I just thought that it was fascinating, and I'm really glad that he brought it kind of back into the fold. So now we have video back, guys. Yeah, I had to go find my son. He came home and took a nap after school, and his mom goes in and says, "Hey, your dad needs you," and he falls back asleep. So, oh well. Teenagers.
You got to lodge a call with IT support, and then you got to wait hours, like roadside assist.
I know. Well, I usually don't have any problems with it, but I can almost bet, and I should have known it. I should have tested it beforehand, because every single time OBS does an update, it completely glitches out all my settings, and it makes me crazy.
OBS is there designed to infuriate anyone that uses it. Every time I use it, it screws all my sources up. It screws every single time. I don't think I've ever properly had it working, because I haven't got the patience for it. But yeah, I can totally see where you're coming from.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. Yeah, it's amazing because, I was surprised people at the conference were actually using OBS as their slide player, and they were using it as their media presentation player. And I'm like, wow, I didn't even know you could do that with OBS. It's like, duh, you know?
Yeah,
So,
it's probably best not to, though. That's the problem.
yeah, well, I mean, I guess when you think about it, that's kind of what it's for, and it's kind of what I'm doing it. Yeah, who was it? Sage Aquay actually did his entire video presentation using OBS, which I thought was wild. So, anyway, learn something new every day.
Well, Jeran's a bit of a whiz on it as well, isn't he? But yeah, I can't get to grips with it. It's it just all the resetting stuff just does my head in.
Yeah, no doubt. That and Windows updates now. Windows 11's out. I converted my laptop to Windows 11, but I have not converted my main system yet. And so far, Windows 11 doesn't look too bad, but I'm just curious what more intrusive things they put in it.
Yeah, I'm looking to get a new system as well, and I think I'm going to go back to Linux, Ubuntu, or something along those lines, because I just morally I can't install something from Gates in my house. You know what I mean?
I know, he's such a jack. I mean, it's funny because I have several Microsoft certifications, and every one of them is signed by Bill Gates. Yeah, I just look at them and I think, that's just messed up, man.
MCSE, all sorts, yeah. But
yep.
Yeah, I'm not keen on anything mainstream side of things, especially Gates. God. And of course, being in the business, I used to get all the operating systems and everything for free, and now I'm being told that I've got to pay £100 for like Windows. I'm like, nah, that doesn't sit right. Sorry.
Yeah, no, they updated mine for free. They're offering it for free, so I guess if you have qualifying version, and it really does not look free. Yeah, it doesn't look that different.
So, you're the product.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, nothing comes for free, right?
Yeah, straight into the metaverse, I think, for you.
Yep. So let's start out with a little bit of humor. You guys know that I like to play Level Earth Observers videos, and this is hilarious. This is a Chang E5, and how it comes in for a landing, and then of course it goes up and docks and transfers pictures, and it is so bad. I mean, I thought NASA was bad, but their cartoons are way worse. They look like something out of a Godzilla flick. Honestly, it's that bad. So let's take a listen to this really quick, and make sure you guys let me know if you can or can't hear it. You should be able to. Here we go.
Check this out. Chang'e 5, China's so-called successful moon landing from last year. I've got two clips. One I've seen before. The other's totally new to me. Both, as you can imagine, are terrible, and of course highlight this for the charade that it is. First up, we got the Chang'e 5 separation, as the craft supposedly prepares itself to land on the moon. So let's have a look. As you can imagine, there's a hell of a lot of CGI to wade through here to get to the actual bit of footage. I find this shot very telling. The control room. An image, some CGI animations, and lots of data. And not much else. You would have thought in this day and age, to further advance things, and of course to make things easier, you'd have at least one camera constantly streaming 24/7.
Exactly. I mean, I cannot believe that. We are in the 21st century, NASA fanboys, and neither China nor Japan nor the United States nor Israel or anybody can seem to get a camera on any vehicle in space so that we can see what's going on out there as we're driving around to it or flying to Mars or anything like that. All we get are these completely ridiculous, absurd stills, cartoons that are admittedly CGI. I mean, video just simply doesn't exist. It's absolutely, in a day and age when every household in the world has probably an average of like 4 cameras minimum, right? Because we all have them in our cell phones. Plus we have our SLRs, our P1000s, and God knows what all. That NASA can't take a single damn picture, and neither can China or anybody else. And the Ball Earth clowns literally are okay with this. It's like, you got to be kidding me. How can you be okay with this?
Wasn't there a camera on Elon Musk's vehicle?
Not that
he could have just parked it on the moon, couldn't he? His stupid car.
Oh, the car?
The Tesla Roadster. Yeah. That had a live feed on it for a while, didn't it?
It did, but then they said something that something got messed up on the launch. And remember, because it was supposed to go all the way out and orbit Mars, right? But something happened, and now it's just tooling off through space somewhere. And of course, unlike, they can put a battery on something, as far back as the Voyager with all the cheesy 1970s technology. But Elon Musk, who runs Tesla, an energy freaking company, right? Cannot put a battery that lasts 5 minutes on a car that he launches into orbit. It's like, it's pathetic.
I've got a feeling we're going to see that car again in the future sometime. I've got a feeling it's going to come back around at 1,000,000 miles an hour and take out New York City or something.
That would be the reason the alien invasion happens, because we hit their Starfleet ship with a car.
All right, let's continue.
Not only to explore space, but to, of course, keep an eye on things and make sure things go smoothly and give you a further understanding should things go wrong. Of course, no, we get the usual tosh. No wonder they look so bored in the control room. Let's get to the actual bit of footage provided, the separation here. Two things to pay particular attention to. One,
this is pathetic.
The moon. Button moonish. Look at the edges of the moon. Look at the moon itself. And of course, two, the craft. Again, it's got a touch of the Blue Peter, blended with someone who's got a tinfoil fetish, who's just gone way overboard here. Put the two together, and what do you get? An historical Chinese moon landing. So let's have a look. Terrible footage.
Oh, God. It is so bad.
We've essentially got a Thunderbird style prop and a button moon style moon.
Is that supposed to be the moon to the right?
That's supposed to be the moon to the right, yes.
Blue moon.
And the Thunderbird, when he says Thunderbirds, I don't know if you guys have ever seen that cartoon, right? But literally, they had all these space launches and stuff from this cartoon, and its graphics were better than this. Not a lot, but they were still better than this. I mean, it's unbelievable that, they're still back in the Godzilla age, and they haven't seemed to be able to get it better.
Do you guys get the Blue Peter reference there? Did you ever get Blue Peter in the States?
No, what is Blue Peter?
Oh, Blue Peter is like a kids program. You'd watch it when you got home from school, and they'd always be making things out of toilet roll and tinfoil and sticky back plastic.
Okay.
All these little models and stuff for kids, basically. So, yeah.
Well, it's about the truth. And I think they have to, do it in keeping with the original Lem, right? Because, anybody that looks at that, if you look at that and seriously look at it hard, I mean, what a joke. And, the ballers will defend it 100%. Oh, yeah, no, that's top technology, went all the way to the moon and back, 6 times. It's just wonderful stuff. It's absolutely incredible that they believe it. But so let's watch this docking procedure here.
It's shocking that they put that out in the 60s, let alone 2021,
I know. I mean, this wouldn't have been bad if it was back in the 60s, but for 2021, it is pathetic. And all you baller fanboys that defend this as being real, you are retards. I'm sorry, but you are retards. Let's continue.
Moon. Terrible, guys. If you want to get on in this space pantomime game, you really need to up your game. I mean, it's not easy. NASA are the main players and they're terrible. But this tosh, this is almost as bad as India's citations of so-called achievements in space. Ridiculous. Look at it. Is the moon even moving? Come back.
It is looking like the Chinese homeless tweaker shelter all over again, isn't it?
It totally is. So bad.
Either way, it's shockingly bad. And we come to the control room. Hardly edge of your seat stuff going on here as these people look at the numbers on the screen. I don't even know if they've actually got that shot that we've just seen. I can't work out if that's been blended on top there, because not many seem to be paying a bit attention to it. It's more about the numbers. One appears to be looking up there, but that could be something that was behind the screen. Ridiculous.
Yeah,
This is a month or so
beyond
later,
belief.
where the craft supposedly
This
landed,
is good.
took some samples, and now is returning back to the main orbiting spacecraft and is now looking to dock. This is the footage I haven't seen before, and this is old school Thunderbirds at its best. So let's have a look. Supposed to be docking, returning home with the goods.
Oh my God.
I mean, look at the state of this. Look here. Thunderbirds were better build quality and more convincing.
I love how he's look
Terrible.
at it.
Again?
Oh
Kidding me, right?
my goodness! And that's the moon.
An
Yeah, that's the
automatic
moon.
dock.
And first it's in sync and then it's
models.
separated from it. They
Look
can't even
at
keep
that.
their frames in
Let's pause it
sync.
there and appreciate that. Wonderful bit of modelling. Again, you're free to believe this tosh if that tickles your fancy. But this is the only evidence that is cited now as reasons we live on a scientifically impossible ball. Space. Or the stars. I mean, the stars are a red herring, so you're left with space.
Yeah.
Which, quite frankly, is a mixture of pantomime, models, CGI, hairspray fetishes, harnesses. You name it, they chuck it in there, mockery. You've only got to look at recent achievements. This so-called moon landing by China and then returning with goods and docking. Look at it. Look. This is their footage, not me. Look.
It's like, wake up,
China
people.
clearly have got a long way to go in this space pantomime production circuit. They're at 1960s NASA level here with these Thunderbird style models and just terrible. Again, this is the only evidence left to try and prove that you live on a ball. And you're essentially looking at ridiculous bits of footage that are actually mocking the people that defend this. Dear oh dear.
Dear oh dear. And NASA just isn't any better. It is amazing. It's like, honestly, and yet the ballers, of course, when you present them with stuff like this, you know, they'll just look past it and say, oh, this looks fine to me. I don't see anything wrong with it. And then you can show them 1,000 more things and they'll come back and say, well, you just reject everything. And the answer to that is, well, yes, we do. Because look at this bullshit that you're putting out, you know? It's like, oh my God, how can anybody believe this? How can you be so dumb? Or how can you have, you know, cognitive dissonance so bad that you want to be in space so bad that you're going to accept this? When the purpose behind it is far more nefarious than you will ever know. I mean, this is just just scratching the surface, but it is amazing.
They're mocking us at this point where they're doing that. They really, really are. I expect much more for our money that they're taking than to do, again, childish productions, even if only a few people know with what you can do in animation nowadays. There's really no excuse for this other than they're making fun of us because, again, the way that it's presented back at us and just laughed at, they're seeing where they can draw the line and how bad it can get. Apparently, no bar is too low, so...
Yeah.
Well, they're not making fun of us. They're making fun of the ballers.
And
they're
so making fun of the ballers, but they're mocking us by doing it, saying, you're right, you guys have all got points. Let's see how much worse we can get. And they still won't catch it. These people, we have got hypnotized. We have got mesmerized. It doesn't matter what you show them. They're going to say, but NASA or... Again, whatever space agency is putting it out, but it's the science. You have to trust the science.
I wonder what the Chinese people think of it. I wonder if they're laughing their heads off at it, or they're looking at it in awe.
I was thinking the same thing. No, I bet they're laughing. I mean, like you said, it's 2021 now. I don't care. This might work on people that have, never seen a cell phone before or the internet, but people who have all the means to go and, no, there's no way this is flying in China.
No. But you know what they do is they surround it with so much more stuff that is absolutely beyond preposterous. And I mean, even as compared to just 4 or 5 years ago. For example, guys, if you haven't seen this, this is, I have no words for this. Here's the latest headline. Rumors of Biden having an accident during meeting with Pope causes poopy pants Biden memes to trend. In other words, he was in a meeting with the Pope and he crapped his pants. And apparently, from what they're saying, this is absolutely true. A lot of people saw it happen. And so you're getting all these crazy memes and you're getting stuff like this coming out.
Did you poop your diaper?
Yes, I did.
A little or a lot?
A lot.
Is there a price set
And let's then follow it up by stuff like this, that's going around.
What must be what? What must be what? What must be what?
Now, I don't know if he's actually saying that, but it sure sounds like he's saying my butt's been wiped. But this actually came out July 26th. But I mean, the reason I play this, guys, is because it is so preposterous. I mean, it's like, I can't even believe this is like a cartoon world. None of this has any dignity. There's no decorum. This is the president of the United States, right? The leader of the free world.
Let's go, Brandon.
Yesterday or today, like earlier today, over they're at the convention or the G20 whatever summit. He fell asleep during a climate something or other. Guy up there giving a speech. Someone had to go wake him up.
Good man.
He fell asleep. They're like, oh yeah, jet lag and this and that. No, he's been there for 5 days, people.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's kind of like having Homer Simpson in the presidency. It's that insane. It's just, I mean, I'm going to be in 3 days, I'm going to be 61 years old. Right. And never in my life have I ever seen anything like this. It's just beyond belief. And of course, that's what's happening. The more absurd and crazy things get in the world, the more the media promotes absurd and crazy things, right? So it's just the everyday norm. And, you really have to wonder when people are going to wake up and go, what the hell is going on?
Yeah, I think people are starting to. I think people are starting to, we're seeing a lot of this super left push. The people in the middle that weren't saying anything at all, they were just going along to get along and didn't want. Now they're starting to see that it's affecting their children, and they're not having any more of this. We're starting to see a lot more of the center of this country, at least, start speaking out.
I think it's worldwide, Zach. I honestly,
I hope so.
In the last couple of weeks to a month, I'm seeing a sea change of waves of people that are just not putting up with it.
Yeah, I totally agree. And guys, we are definitely going to cover that more. We'll cover some other stuff, but I want to go into that and talk about that. I am broadcasting on 3 platforms today. We are on YouTube, we are on Rockfin, and we are also on DLive. And so a little bit later on, when it gets a little too spicy for YouTube, what I'm going to do is cut the YouTube feed, and both Rockfin and DLive are of course free. And we can go over there without having to worry about getting shut down for what we say about this. But yes, I have to say, I'm really hopeful. A lot of things that have happened as far as people awakening, not just the people that are protesting all around the world, but the information that is coming out. I mean, it's really showing the cards that are being played for exactly what they are. And ironically, this whole thing is, coming full circle with the Owaranon videos, talking about what was the reason for the Great Flood, right? I've heard so many different stories. Of course, you've heard about it, talked about in the Epic of Gilgamesh. There's a million other myths and stories from all over the world. And I mean, there are a ton of them that talk about, the earth being flooded, right? And mankind essentially being wiped out. But really not a whole lot of reason as to why it happened. It talked about impurities and stuff like that. But I think that right now there is enough evidence, especially with what's been coming forward, that yes, there used to be very much larger beings on this earth. We're finding skeletal remains, and guys, look, if you don't want to believe that, that's fine. But it is being found. Stuff like that is being found all over the world. Stuff like the Bible has described, and even like I talk about when I talk about Wes Penre, right, and his alternative studies, also talks about how there have been these hybrids of man and animals that have been created, and we see all kinds of weird stuff like that. I don't know if you guys have ever seen what's the guy's name. I'll have to think about it later. Anyway, there's a guy that puts out videos that are, just really crazy stuff that you would never ever think that you would see. And actually, there's a lot of channels that are seeing it, that are showing
That's
like
Impossible channel.
John Levy.
No, it's the That's Impossible channel.
Oh, that's right. It's the That's Impossible channel. Yeah, and I've heard good things about John Levy. Is he pretty good? Because I haven't followed him.
Yeah, no, he's brilliant. Yeah, no, in terms of the. What is it? The people with the faces on their chest and the other guys with the one big foot. He actually put a video out that had a photo of one of these chest-faced people. A photo. How can you verify that or whatever? But no, he does some really good in-depth mud flood research. Highly recommend. John Levi, maybe. Levi,
right, yeah. So, but it's weird because we've seen these mythological creatures, and even the Bible describes creatures with multiple heads and bodies and stuff like that. And I was always content to believe that these were probably metaphorical, and I still don't discount the possibility that they might actually be. But I'm also certainly not discounting the possibility that these types of genetic freaks have been created. And
they're on Egyptian hieroglyphs as well, aren't they?
Indeed, they are.
Yeah,
indeed they are. So
like duck feet and dog heads and all that sort of thing.
Well, yeah, what is the Sphinx itself?
Yeah,
they
exactly.
made a huge, statue that's withstood however long it's been there. I guess. 200 years.
Yep. And it's amazing. If you look through these videos right now, I'm kind of scrolling through wespenrevideos.com, and he actually has drawings, artist conceptions of all these creatures that were created genetically, right? And like I said, this research it's not meant to be mythical. It's meant to be, yes, this really happened type of stuff. And like I said, it's all seeming to come together with the Bible, with what we've been finding as flat earthers, with Owaranon's work, and it's just amazing. It really is that it's all coming together. So, I just wanted to bring that out because we it's crazy. It really is. And I've always wondered about, dragons and stuff like that. And I never really thought too much about dinosaurs. I'm still not sure I believe that dinosaurs ever existed, but I do think that creatures like dragons probably did. They also talk about creatures that were much, much bigger, back in the day, especially when the oxygen content was higher. So again, here we go with this preponderance of evidence. It's coming out and absolutely coming out of the woodwork everywhere that is substantiating the idea that, yeah, they were giants. Giants. Adam theoretically was 60 cubits tall or 90 feet tall, right? And Eve was made from his rib or his ribosome, right? And it's just all coming together. It's absolutely crazy.
Yeah,
and
the same genetic code. Yeah.
Same genetic code, yeah. So
Ribosome. Yeah, that blew my mind.
yeah, blew my mind too. So let's see. Let me show you the West Penre thing really quick. Where is it? Okay, here is the.
I think some people are.
Oops. Okay, so here's his video, and this is basically West Penre describing his take on what the Earth is. Now, I told you that the universe, our universe, what we see as far as stars in the sky, we've been taught that they're either like life forms. I think that they're vibrating energy matrices, like, the vibrating water or anything like that. But he's calling them the other eggs or other stars, like would be like other universes, other life forms. And here in ours, we have Earth, which is supposedly left over from a structure called Gaia, right? And this was the ancient name for Earth. And something happened, with one of the wars in heaven, and Gaia was largely destroyed. And then it was rebuilt by an entity called Enki. Okay. And Enki also has a ton of different names, right? And again, this is replete throughout all kinds of different, philosophies, stories, mythologies, yada, 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 biblical, religious texts, etc. And then he's got the grid, the dome, the star constellations, and then, Saturn and its role, the seven heavens, Pluto and the underworld. And so, but basically what we're seeing is a flat structure that is covered by a dome and also a grid. And that grid, by the way, is for keeping not only other entities out, but for keeping us in. And that's, I find that rather disturbing, frankly, but, I'm also willing to accept that there could be a reason for this, and a large part of it could be because when God created this place, that he wanted to keep the genetics of his creations pure. Because when you start corrupting the genetic database, then you basically corrupt the entire ecosystem, right? This is why it would be considered to be, to not keep the bloodlines pure, or it would be a sin to, pollute the bloodlines, genetically modify them, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, yeah, it's just fascinating stuff. So let me go ahead and play this, and I'm going to have Wes describe. Go ahead.
Real quick, Bob, have you ever heard of the video game Mortal Kombat?
Oh yeah, a long time ago.
Yeah, well, they've made movies about it. Well, there's like a whole story that it's set about, and it's Raiden is the god of lightning, I think, and he defends the Earth realm. And then they say that to the north is where all the other gods live. And then in outer realm, the outer, I think they call it Outworld is what they call it. That's where all these mythological beasts still remain. But that one god is supposedly here to protect us and keep them out of this realm.
Yeah.
Out of the Earth realm. But they're waiting for their chance to come back and take over and blah, 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 blah. Yeah, it's that's how the story goes. But it's based on a flat Earth.
Well, that's exactly right. And the people that are wanting to corrupt it and take it over are already here. These are the elite. These are the people that are pushing this AI type of interface, modifying people genetically to turn us into the Borg, and I don't want to say too much on this channel, but I mean, they're here, they're alive and well. And it appears, unfortunately, for them at this point, that they are failing in a fairly substantial way. However, the flip side of it is that they may have already gotten to enough people that they're ready to start backing off on pushing this whole agenda so hard. And yeah, we'll have to talk about that later. God, I hate YouTube for this very reason. You just cannot say what you want to say, but we'll get to that later. So let's go ahead and cover this first, and then we'll go, punt YouTube, and then we'll talk about the stuff we can't talk about. So this, again, guys, is Wes Penre talking about in his opinion, what the universe actually is. And this is, I'm not saying it is or isn't. It's for your consideration, but I do find a lot of parallels to a lot of things, even video games. I mean, they tell us in every conceivable way possible, what we're actually living in. And they figure that if they do that, that's informed consent. And if you don't take that informed consent seriously, well, then that's on you, man. And that is exactly how they look at it. So let's go.
I mean,
go ahead.
So I was just wondering if there is actually a video game out there that depicts that the world is a ball. Because I can't think of any. Even flight simulators are built on flat Earth.
No, there are some, though, that are all about space and navigating through space and going from this planet to that planet and landing on this spaceport and that, yada, yada, yada. So there are some out there.
Yeah,
that are just strictly about space.
And FYI, for the guy in the chat named Karim, he says, Mr. Nodell, you really should look into the Urantia book too. I read the Urantia book 30, maybe 40 years ago, probably 40 years ago the first time. I'm very familiar with the Urantia book. It's interesting. And this is another one of those conglomerate. This is, part of this evidence, right, that has been kind of brought together by Wes Penre, right? So, and like I said, it's great that everybody has their go-to source, and for some people that's the King James Bible, and for other people it's whatever it is. But I think that it's always good to be diverse and look at other sources, because information inherently is not evil. It's what you do with that information that can be evil or otherwise, right? So I don't think there's any problem with gathering or listening to information. But nevertheless, there'll be a lot of people that'll try and keep you away from that, saying, oh my God, that's evil. Well, I think that's nonsense, but that's me. So anyway, let's go ahead and play this and listen to Wes for a minute. Here we go.
Are at least willing to ponder or consider the following theory, which is not complete by any means and needs to be expanded upon, but it is what makes the most sense to me right now. And this is my theory. The universe we live in is egg-shaped, something we find in ancient texts and secret societies as well. And there are esoteric imagery showing this as well, also presented as the Unum image by LPGC in the WPP Level 1. See picture on the screen. In our universe, Gaia, the landmass, is in the center, going more or less across the egg, following the structure of the inside of the eggshell, quote unquote. Thus the landmass is flattish, and the egg/universe is oval-shaped, as well as the immediate dome above our heads, which I will talk more about in a minute. The original humans, whom I've called the Namlu'u, probably started out somewhere on Gaia, which is the complete landmass I'm talking about. Above our heads, so to speak, are the seven heavens, i.e. the seven celestial bodies, with Saturn on top. Above Saturn is the dome, which is the final solid boundary of our Kenoma universe. Gaia is most likely static, i.e. i.e. not moving, but at least in the Kenoma, all celestial bodies, including the sun and the moon, revolve around Earth, with our construct in the center. And Gaia in her entirety is an embodiment of the Mother Goddess Sophia. At one point, not too long ago, a faction of humanity partook in an experiment within the experiment, which is what we, as Homo sapiens sapiens, experience today. This reality was or became much denser than what we were used to as Namlu'us, and our bodies became shorter and sturdier over time. We also lost our immortality, i.e. our ability to complete things in one go, and our lifespan was significantly shortened. We died and were reborn, and I believe there are at least 2 ways for humans to reincarnate, as discussed in the Q&A number 83 video, so I will not go into that here in any detail. Simply put and in short, from being Namlu'us, we became Homo sapiens sapiens, today's humans. Thus, in a restricted area within the giant landmass we may call Gaia, Earth was isolated. Again, see picture. Over the Earth is the dome, preventing us from physically leaving our Earth construct within Gaia, which stretches way beyond Antarctica and outside the dome. Antarctica being the landmass that surrounds Earth, the disk, stretching around the edges of it. Underneath.
Okay, I just want to make a comment because I just saw a comment by Kyle Schumacher, and Kyle says, I believe it's flat, but I think some people like this guy are just stretching it a bit far. Well, Kyle, that's fine. But I think that, again, the term judgment before investigation is the height of ignorance might apply here, because you have to understand who this man is, Wes Penre, and how he's dedicated his entire life to bringing together scriptures and mythologies and virtually every possible source from all over the world, including scientific labs that are based on studying the consciousness, near-death experiences. All of this stuff has been accumulated into his work. And out of that work, he has emerged something that is quite amazing. And I think that the more you get into, what he reveals in his work, I think that we've all touched upon a lot of that, in our lives. And so, like I'm saying, I'm not trying to push him down anybody's throat. I'm simply sharing somebody that I feel is amazing and actually has contributed a lot to my knowledge and my understanding and my beliefs of this world. And one thing that I know about that is that you should never, ever, ever, try and push those beliefs on anybody else. Sharing information is great, but the second that you make it, when you put yourself in a position that your position is right and everybody else's is wrong, and you really go after them for that, you're overstepping. Now, if you have decided that privately and you want to pursue your own, that's great. In fact, that's what you should be doing. Everybody should be making those choices for himself. I would never make life decision choices for my wife, for my friends, for my enemies, for anybody. The only person that I am qualified, and I'm hoping that I'm qualified, I'm trying to make myself good enough to be qualified to make the life decisions for, is me. And so anybody that thinks that they should be making those decisions for anybody else is way, way, way out of line. So I understand your skepticism, but all I'm saying is just keep an open mind. If you reject it, fine. I realize this is not for everybody. Buddhism isn't for everybody. Taoism isn't for everybody. There's lots of things that aren't for other people. But again, you never know what philosophy or what point of view is going to resonate with you and suddenly bring the pieces together, in your life. And I think honestly, guys, if you are honest with yourselves, you have to admit that we are at a point in this world's history where things are changing in such a way like we've never seen before. I mean, yeah, we've had wars before, we had all this, but we're at war, but we're technically not at war. You know what I mean? It's crazy what's happening, but it's a whole different level. It's a whole different experience what's happening here. And I think that the best thing you can do is to keep an open mind and really start taking seriously, why are we here? What is our purpose to be here? And ultimately, am I making the right choices? And that's how I'm trying to proceed. Of course, I've always believed that, you should always, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And I know that's not a Bible thing, but I like the saying, and I've always agreed with it, because I think if people treated others like they would like to be treated, that this would be a whole lot better world, biblical or not. Okay. So that's all I'm saying. So let's continue the last couple minutes of this, and then we will talk about it a little more. Here we go.
The Gaia landmass beneath our feet, so to speak, is the underworld, which the Egyptian and the Vedic texts, among others, compare with the death and hell dimensions because of the even thicker density. In the Gnostic texts, there are 5 heavens below, where Pluto reigns. The grid surrounds the dome and the underworld, and the grid is the final boundary of the Earth construct, comprising our mass consciousness, and the grid is held together with technology. In the WPP, I explained that Enki and his cohorts stole Orion technology and used it on us in this construct. Using this technology, they held the grid together, and therefore also the Homo sapiens sapiens soul group on the soul level. Outside our dome and grid is Orion, or the 8th heaven in the Gnostic texts. This is where Gaia and the Earth are essentially both located. Orion is a loose term for our entire universe outside the Earth construct, and it is egg-shaped. Outside this egg/universe is the 9th heaven, written about in the Gnostic texts. Ancient texts, such as the Vedas, call it the transcendental water, and in the WPP I usually call it the void. However, it is also true that the water is running through our own universe as well, and is part of the life-bringing and life-sustaining process. The void comprises numerous other eggs/universes in clusters of 12, as explained in the WPP Level 2. Each universe is its own unique experiment and needs to be left alone to evolve, just like a chicken embryo needs to develop, hopefully without interruption, inside the egg to eventually crack the shell and become a chicken and leave its egg universe to enter a greater universe. In the WPP, I conveyed that even though Earth is an isolated construct, it is still located in Orion.
Okay, so I'm going to stop that there basically, but I just wanted to give you guys a taste of this. And, how many times have we heard things going on about Orion in our media, our television shows, our movies, the Orion Wars? I mean, again, guys, remember, the way that they tell us what they are doing, the way that they actually inform us, is to put it in front of us in the form of media, storytelling, movies, etc., etc., etc. Now, granted, they control the way that you perceive this information by something that Iwaranan calls the prism that you look at this situation through, right? So it would seem that, like, for example, before with the flood, right? People looked at the flood, through the prism that it was, kind of maybe, metaphorical, for metaphorical type of reasons, when the actual reason is that the creator of us and this place and all the genetics that make up Gaia and everything like that cannot be corrupted. It's like introducing a cancer into a very established life form, right? You don't want to corrupt it, because then you throw off the entire biosphere for it, right? And I'm probably not putting that through very well, but that's kind of my best description. And I get that. And so that's basically what the creator is saying. You cannot, that's the big sin. The big sin is to corrupt us genetically. And I think that's also, what's being talked about when they talk about the mark of the beast. And the mark of the beast isn't necessarily anything that they put on your forehead or your hand. At least it may be, but I think it's more of an idea about, what they're going to alter your genetics into, and whether or not you're going to go along with that. Because, I think that at some point they're going to promise people that they've come up with some sort of technology that will literally allow you to live forever. And in fact, it's pretty crazy. The latest Jeran video has Elon Musk talking about, all you have to do to pretty much do anything, make any changes to a human being, is to manipulate the mRNA, right? And it's like, and Elon Musk has gone off about it. He goes, oh yeah, you can turn a person into a butterfly by doing that. And I think that, that's probably true. I don't know if it's that simple, but this is what this is all about, guys. So I'm really talking a whole lot, and we've gone probably way far. What do you guys think about this? Any comments on it?
When did he write that, Bob? When did he do this?
Well, this particular was released October 9, 2021, but I mean, he's been doing this for the last 30 years.
But has he always had the flat plane and everything like that? Like that same model?
He has often referred to it, yes, as being flat. I mean, like I said, it was no surprise to me for him to actually come out with this, diagram.
I mean, I don't know if you guys saw Unlimited Hangout or Limited Hangout or whatever it was, with Ryan Christian talking about the metaverse, which is what they're rebranding Facebook as. But this is what I think. This is the platform that they're going to offer the genetically altered or the transhumans, or whatever. But it's going to be like a Sim City scenario, and you probably can't enter it without altering your DNA to get into it. Have you seen about the metaverse or whatever it's called?
I have, yes. It's very interesting. And, like I said...
on that, Zuckerberg just worked on changing the name of Facebook to Meta, and found out that the name was already taken. So that's up in the courts right now, too.
That's what I'm talking about, is Facebook's metaverse or whatever. The way he was describing it, it's imagine yourself in a world where, we don't interact with other human beings because of viruses, and we don't travel, and you can be everything you want to be in a really scary real world, in a sim world, in the beautiful sim world. Absolutely.
Taking us away from reality, completely away from reality.
Yeah.
Do you want me to do a take on what you were looking at, Bob? I'm going to share a screen with you, if I can.
Okay, absolutely.
I'm going to pull an Eru.
Okay, let me just say one thing really quick before you do that. There was a comment in there. Bible Can't Cross Antarctica says, Bible talks about how people go their own way instead of following God's teaching. A mistake, I think. Okay, and you know what? I don't necessarily disagree with that. But one thing that becomes abundantly clear, especially with the new Jeran video and, a lot of what Wes Penre has uncovered, is that the Bible has been edited. Parts have been taken out. I mean, there's tons and tons of omissions, separations from what actually is the canon, yada, yada, yada. And, you have to wonder, well, who is it that's making those decisions? Who is it that omitted those, parts of the Bible? And when I say that I think other people should look into other areas like what Wes Penre is studying, these are the people that are going in and putting those pieces back together. And this is where Warnan, I think, is going also, talking about, the missing chapters of the Bibles, the missing books, the missing philosophies, thought lines, like, for example, the using the trivium and quadrivium, right? And how things should be taught. It's just, we have been so woefully lacking in, even learning how to be able to study that, that's why there's all this information is coming out now. So anyway, I just wanted to say that. And yes, let me go ahead and switch over to you, Cami. And we are now presenting for Cami's screen.
All right, and I'll try to do this and remember, but I know that I disappear in my office a lot and listening to it. But what you're saying with West Penre and what they're doing over at what are the guys that we were talking to that are doing the model with the dome and the dome and the dome? Why can't I think of their names? It was with
West Blaze and
right,
the other guy. That's crud. Anyway, I'll think of it. Continue.
That's what's going on, or with anybody and looking at the models is like what he drew with the little eggs and the little pieces and the parts, or I think what we're all looking at the pieces and parts. So when looking at the model, you guys are familiar with, oops, this isn't going to interact with me. This sometimes is a document that interacts with me, but with the magnetics where we have the quadrupole in the center and the two poles on the outside, if you start taking the magnetics and popping them out physically where they appear on our map, I might have to take us back. I might be doing too forward, but it all comes up with the same realms that you're talking about, that when you spread across the realm that we're on, the earthly realm here, that's where my cursor is here. We're getting Urahu and K2 in here. This is where he's putting the planets in the seven heavens here, in the highest heaven, hell here. It's all in the Bible. It's the exact same pieces. If Wes would read the Bible, he would come up with the exact same story that he's telling.
And Sean. Sean, right? Sean Griffin?
Exactly.
Yeah. Thanks, Anthony.
Right.
And yeah, that's the whole thing. And of course, Wes is describing it as Gaia. And, Cami has come to the conclusion that there has got to be another magnetic source outside of the area that we are seeing, with what they've given us, right? And this is one of those things that starts filling in those pieces, right? And again, that's all we're trying to do is put the puzzle together. Life's a puzzle, right? That's what we're doing, putting it together.
So put the puzzle together. We'll puzzle that a little bit. The reason Cami thinks there's another pole out there is if you look at our declination and what we're flying by map, and I do agree it's distorted and stretched around there, but we'll discuss that in another area. But what you have is a quadrupole center in the center. We don't have a simple dipole running through our Earth the way they do the bottle, and that would be a fun thing to pick on. But we show a quadrupole here. We show a dipole here, or a pillar. Dipole just meaning two poles on the magnet, quadrupole meaning four poles. Keep it as simple as you can. This red and the blue have to come together magnetically off of the chart. Now, if you even drew a phi ratio, or what you would see as a Christian T, and put it off there, that's probably about the point off of the map where they would come together. And there would need to be land there, by the way. You would need land to carry the magnetic pattern, but we're starting with on the realms. I'm just starting with a magnetic pattern, and what we're looking at when looking at our realm, and then overlaying it with oops, I'm going to pull this over here. Do one more.
I think all you can do is maximize that. You can't move it.
It's been difficult. Tell me if I'm bringing. Do you see the magnet on there now? Do you see the Ferricel picture big?
Yep,
with the other
I do.
behind?
I do.
Okay.
Yep, we got it now.
So I'll do that there. What I did do is with the dipoles and the one off the map, we were playing with different magnetic configurations in reality on how to get quadrupoles. And one of the ways of getting a quadrupole is taking two pillars or dipoles, and your quadrupole will create itself. And when you're looking at this, you'll notice that this pattern that we're showing is what looks like our magnetic pattern, what looks like our tide pattern, what looks like a lot of things we see in reality. But when you start building that upwards, what you're not seeing on the outside here is this will make a magnetic border, and it will make a beautiful, beautiful magnetic border where it pops out 4 corners. So you would have 4 corners here, your 2 pillars here, the one off of the map. The land, what I did with the land here was I just left pieces off of the map. I pieced together where we don't have trade routes, where it would open up, and actually took a dodecahedron and used it as a model for the bottom pieces. They pieced themselves out.
Right. So let me expand on this really quick. So what Cami is showing here, guys, is she's been talking about, she's been looking at the magnetics of the world, because obviously the magnetics that they're telling us that should be created by a ball with a molten core are not only impossible, but don't work at all, when in fact there are multiple magnetic sources, and that at least one of them appears to be in a position off of where our normal map would be. Now, if you guys have seen the ancient, I think it was a Japanese map that was recovered like 100 years ago in Hawaii. You guys have all seen that picture, right? It has all the other continents on the outside. Basically, what Cami is showing is that if what Wes Penre is saying about Gaia being the base construct, well, you saw that our little dome was only about 1/3 of that, and there was considerably more area beyond that. So it is entirely possible that those continents could exist. So the evidence, like I said, we are putting the evidence together, and there is a magnetic construct that Cami has been able to replicate that is telling us straight up there is another magnetic pole that is not on a landmass that we are able to see. And she's been talking about that for quite some time. So continue on.
Now keep on drawing the picture, and I want you to keep on remembering Wes Penre and what you say, but I want you to draw the picture, and I want you to, on each one of the points, put magnets, and down the middle, and then draw it up and down, because in our heaven and earthly realms, in all the cosmology and all the mythology, and everywhere we look at it, in the Bible, you have Sheol, or hell below us, the underworld, you have the heavens above us, you have layers. So go ahead and take your magnetic layers, your points that naturally draw themselves, by just simply having 2 pillars or 2 dipoles. So once you have the 2 dipoles and run electricity through them, the rest of this draws itself. If you run it upwards, what happens is you get, go ahead and make 4 of them out there. We did this also. It creates in the middle again, the 4 corners that pop out, a 3D pattern that kind of looks like this. Most people will recognize this as a Sephiroth.
Right. Now this is what Wes is doing. Wes and God, spaced it out again. I am so bad. Anyway, they actually called us one day wanting to talk about that, because they're going to model this, and they're modeling their idea of this, not, did they call it a Sephiroth, Cami, or what did they call it?
No, they did not call it. They were doing what they were doing is they were doing the different layers, and they were making a nested dome, and they were taking the different layers.
Oh, that's right, the nested dome. That's right. Yes.
And they did like where Wes just did all of his little eggs and wrote the eggs next to each other and did the different realms next to each other by making little eggs. I'm saying that if you stop and go to reality a little bit and look at our magnetic patterns on it, 2 pillars, or again, if you take the 2 pillars, the stairway to heaven creates itself. But if you take 2 magnetic pillars, it will create this pattern. It creates itself. And if you look at the pattern going up, you would have your Gaia stretched out here. This is the heaven where the birds and the clouds in that play. This is where the sun and moon is. This is where Rahu and Ketu are, or your the liquid. This would be the shiny river or the firmament in religion, the vault of looking glass that would actually take what was ever here and reflect it naturally back into these realms. I've repeated, I'm throwing a lot at people that have not watched my work, but for people that have watched Miroscope work and different things like that, a Miroscope if you took the way that the firmament or one of the heavens above us is described in every religion or in every text, you would have in the Christian religion a vault of looking glass, or in Egyptian you would have a river flowing above you, Newt, or you would have the shiny river that you cross. You would have the rainbow bridge. In your Nordic traditions, do you understand that the theme is that it's a fluid, shiny item that you're looking for? Now, if you actually make a vault of looking glass, what you get is you get a natural hologram emitter. And I wonder if I can do this.
Yeah, and so Sean and Wes were actually talking to Cami and I about this one day, and they were bouncing back and forth, and Cami was showing them the counterparts to their nested dome, and she was showing the Sephiroth, and there are direct analog counterparts to this, which I think is amazing, because why else do we have these symbols? Why else have we been given these symbols, throughout all time immemorial? What do they really mean, right? They're a mystery to a lot of people. So this is why I think that, you kind of sometimes have to get a little abstract in your thinking, but ultimately it comes together.
Yeah. I'm going to get abstract in my thinking, because what we've all been taught to do our entire lives is divide into 3 groups. And the 3 groups are going to be like this. We're going to have our scientists, we're going to have our religious people, and we're going to have our new age people. And I think you can pretty much put people into those 3 categories, right? And I want you to think about what each one of these groups has been taught. Your religious people has been taught that the mysticism is a cult, it's evil, and do not look into it. And they're taught that science contradicts everything that's in their Bible, and so it's really not to be trusted. Okay, I'm going to be a scientist, and I'm going to look at the occult people. I'm going to be taught to write that all off as pseudoscience and mysticism. And I'm going to write off religious as a bunch of believers that believe a whole bunch of stuff that was written in a book and that are crazy. No matter what direction you take the 3 things from, your religious believer and again your occult believer is going to look at both your religious people and your scientists with crazy eyes, because they're new age. Well, if you look at I can bring it up on the screen. If you look at the High Priestess card or whatever in the tarot deck, you'll notice that she's holding the tarot. See if I can bring this up on camera. Don't know if this will. See how we're doing it. Displaying.
You got it.
Got it. So if you look at the High Priestess, this is just a tarot card. And the High Priestess, if you look at her, she's holding the Torah with the cross. She's between the 2 pillars, Joachim and Boaz, or your dipoles. And you'll notice a lot of things on the card, what you have in alignment right here is on the card. You'll see this is a ruler, because if you're talking about cubits or scales or Masonic symbols, you'd know that everything needs to be built to scale. But these 3 arts have been told to completely ignore each other. Again, religion, you can't look at occult, you can't look at religion, and science, you can't look at either one of them at all. When I think if you wanted to solve the mysteries or the questions that you're answering or asking, to get it, you have to mix all 3 of them together.
Yeah, and isn't it interesting that each one of those, science, occult, and religion, has each had their own dominating role in history, right? They've all had a dominant role in history at one point or another.
And they're all taught to hate each other. But what you'll see is the mystery of what you're looking at right now is you're looking at Scotch tape on glass, and I'm going to polarize or change the light angle that you're looking at it at. I'm doing nothing. I'm adding no color to this at all. I'm just changing the angle of the light that you're looking at, and you're changing the color. This is called anisotropic. It's mentioned in the Bible. It's mentioned in all of the things like that. Again, you can't get to your answers until you're willing to look at the 3 of them together. So in everybody that are building West Penre and the different people building the grid, you say what the construct is. If you start looking at our constructs and where our magnetic fields are and how things rotate, they start. Oops, that's not the updated skies ones.
Do you think it's important to distinguish at this point that science, the difference between science and scientism?
Okay,
Because I think
huge,
science can look at anything in any context and draw conclusions, whereas scientism, which is what we're essentially talking about here with space and Big Bang and evolution and all the rest of it, is a religion in itself.
What's happening is we're putting the baby in with the bathwater, and we're criticizing all of it. In my mind, with what's going on, can I do? Because one of the videos I saw, can I go on a tangent? And Zack, if you get a chance out here, I want people to see what I'm doing on the camera, not only to see the camera, but I watched a oops, not GIMP. Sorry, people, I really didn't want to open GIMP. But I watched a video from Pete and Peter.
Oh, yes. That was another thing we were going to talk about if we have time today as well.
Blimey. Them again.
Okay. And they talked about the Faraday effect. And they talked about how no science is being real or anything. But I just wanted to, because maybe I'm missing a point on this, but I want to go into like my understanding of the Faraday effect. And if I'm off, somebody please let me know. And if I'm right on here, again, we're going in the entirely wrong direction on things. But the Faraday effect, from my understanding, and again, I learned it after the fact. I researched it after the fact because it turns out I was using it every day in my job without without it being named out. But the Faraday effect, in my understanding, is Michael Faraday took note of the fact that magnetic fields took light and lineated it. It caused light to be lineated perfectly. Like instead of scattered, it was completely lineated light. And so they studied this effect, and what they did was they replicated it. And how they replicated it is they replicated the effect by drawing tiny little lines out of a solution, first a salt solution, or etching them into it, and then it got really good on computers. But they drew little bitty lines across a piece of glass or across a piece of plastic, so that only let light in again, the tiniest of lines, but all of them exactly parallel. And exactly, again, light in, half out, half in, half out. So you would have the effect of like blinds, but it's done microscopically small. If I could get this microscope to zoom in enough on these Polaroid sheets, what you would see on them is itty bitty lines in them, and that is what's making them tinted. If you wanted to know the difference between polarized sunglasses and regular sunglasses, you would know that regular sunglasses are just tinted, but polarized sunglasses have got horizontal lines drawn across them. A lot of things that you see came from this technology. They found how helpful it was to see things this cleanly. You could remove the glare from items. You can bring out, all I'm doing is putting this between polarized light and bringing out colors that you didn't see that were there before. Reactions to things in polarized light are ways that we can determine and measure properties, so we know what we're looking at, and we can use those properties to use technology with. So for instance, I'm going to take a piece of calcite, and I'm just going to put it on the mirror, and I'm going to, you'll see it's very blurry right there. But when I put this Polaroid filter on it, that double vision that you just saw went away. Did you notice that? See the double vision and try to get a really clear spot of it.
Yeah.
See the
I noticed
doubling?
that right away.
Okay, so see how clear it is? What this property of this stone is this stone has two optic axes, and so we see this stone, we see it as a doubled. We see it, our optic picks it up as doubled. When you purify the light, I take away one of the optic axes because I'm now only looking through a single axis. And if I rotate it, you'll notice that the image is moving. If Zack was filming what I was doing in the background while you were watching this, you'll see that I'm just moving a little, rotating a little bitty sunglass filter over a picture. I am not moving anything. This is what I think the lunar wave is, by the way. The amount that your optic displaces is a fun word we call birefringence, and it's one of the properties that when you want to identify something, everything has got an inherent property to it.
That's a good point.
The Faraday effect, these are optical effects, right? So they noticed that what happened around a electromagnetic field is the electricity lineated light, much like I'm doing with the filter, and would have that type of effect. And one of the effects that happened is when you lineated light and you crossed it at 90 degrees, let's do that. Let's lineate light and cross it at 90. Let's put something underneath it that we can see so it goes on and out. And probably take the light down.
Okay, and sorry guys, we're we're kind of all over the place today,
we're all
but
over the place with this. But with the Faraday effect, what I'm just trying to say with the Faraday effect is the Faraday effect is simply see where it goes black there and see where it's not black, see where you see through and it goes back. That is the Faraday effect, is when electromagnetics cross, you get a area of darkness. And so from these little things saying that when the filters crossed or when the field crossed, this effect happened, Faraday wrote this up as an effect, and Maxwell Clark just came up with a bazillion equations to predict when this would happen and write out what was happening. It wasn't the equations that made it the Faraday effect. It wasn't Faraday noticing. In other words, it was something that happened when you crossed electrical fields that you got the light to extinguish, and that's what they were showing with that experiment. They were controlling it.
So, Cami,
it's nothing but an optical effect. All of that math, all of the everything that everybody is so scared of and going on, they can sit there and say that the effect doesn't occur and that it's nonsense and everything, but all of the nonsense is just to explain what we see with our eyes.
Okay, so Cami, you have a question. Go ahead, John.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say that, I mean, most people, well, I say most people, myself, think of the Faraday effect of the guy sitting inside a sort of metal cage.
That's a Faraday cage.
Right. Okay. So are they similar, or do they relate to each other?
A Faraday cage blocks out everything coming into the cage. It's a totally different.
Blocks out electromagnetic waves, like yes. Radio waves.
Right.
So that's just a blackout. That has nothing to do with the Faraday effect. The Faraday effect is simply a light effect. What happens to light when you cross electromagnetic fields at 90 degrees? That's it. That's it. We make it hard, but it's reproducible. We emulate the technology, and it's, again, so useful for us. And we have so many things that are horizontally polarized. It's an everyday technology. And yet, what we touch and what we feel, I think it's interesting that they won't let us know what we're looking at, and they make it so confusing, and they obscure it so much that we don't see the simplicity in it. We all get lost in everything but Cami, reality.
Let's back off on this, because we are so far away from where we started from. It's not even in the same universe.
But we played with light. Okay, go ahead.
And it was completely non sequitur. So I apologize if everybody has no idea what just happened, because I can certainly see that. Because one minute we're talking about DNA, and the next we're talking about Faraday effects. So I apologize for that. So let's go ahead, and what I'm going to do is I think I'm going to close down the YouTube side of it. And mods, if you would put the DLive link and also the Rockfin link in. The DLive is dlive.tv/globebusters.fe. I'll put it in there once for everybody. And then I want to go back to our original source, because we definitely got off track there. And then here comes the Rockfin copy. And Rockfin is free. You do not need an account for either. And there they go. Okay. So let's go ahead and close those down, and then we will continue forward, because I do want to say a lot more about this DNA and, kind of finish out what we were talking about in the first place. So with that, I am going to close down the YouTube side. So join us over there, either rockfin.com/stream/105 twitch.tv/globebusters85/light or DLiveTV/globebusters-FE. And we will see you there in just a minute, guys.
Let's go, Brandon.
Let's go, Brandon. All right.